Well, hello, friends. Welcome. I've managed to stitch on the Integrity Ireland intro there. So anyway, we're recording live again. My name is Stephen Manning from Integrity Ireland. Also, as you can see here, S.O.S, Stephen on Sundays. It's also the title of a handbook that we produced to help people in distress with the system, most notably with the so-called justice system here in Ireland. But today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. And today, the title of today's, let's call it a monologue really, is Sexuality or Satanism or both? How the diabolicals demonstrate which Lord they serve. Now, one of the reasons that we're hitting on this topic today is because of the recent expose in Ireland of a teacher training course in DCU in Dublin, the University in Dublin. And we'll be covering a little bit of that later on and where you can go for a bit more information about it, guys. But we've reached a point now. I mean, look, everybody knows that the world seems to have gone mad. For those of us who do have a handle on reality as it's supposed to be. But what most people don't understand is how our sexuality is intrinsically connected to our spirituality. Now, I know when you start using terms like spiritual or spirituality, you start talking about God or deity and everything. Yes, we're in territory where there's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of misunderstanding. Hopefully, we're going to clear up a little bit of this today. But once we start understanding that there is a fundamental link, if you like, between the notions of healthy, positive sexuality and goodness and morality and, you know, if you're a religious person, your connection with the divine and your basic sexuality. Once we start to understand all of that is linked, then we start to understand the insidious nature of the attacks on our children's innocence in particular that's happening now in Irish schools, has been going on for a while. We've had some activists of note who have taken a special interest in trying to expose all of these degenerate, and they are degenerate guys. And I speak my mind. I'll try my best to avoid the algorithms that would have us banned and so on. But much that is passing off as sort of woke ideology and progressive, gender-specific political thinking, that sort of stuff. A lot of it is, in fact, perverse. A lot of it is sick in the psychological sense. And certainly a great deal of it is damaging to, especially to young people's psychology and to the collective sense of spirituality, because, it all comes down ultimately to sowing as much confusion as possible about what is a very actually clear and transparent subject. And in doing so, the more confusion you can sow in the population, not only about their cultural identity, but about their own personal sexuality, about their role in any given society. If all of a sudden, for example, let's say 2/3 of the population of your country, wherever you may be, all of a sudden have no interest in the prevailing culture or have no respect for it, it's going to be an awful lot harder for you to feel safe and confident in your cultural identity, let alone, we'll talk about in a moment, the sexual identities. Okay, so and yes, you do see a few stray wisps of hair there where I've been working on a project and have allowed myself to relax a little bit. I still have the tie on for you though, guys, mark of respect. So we'll just, as we've done before, we're going to march through a few slides. And as we go through each slide, we'll just try and make the most of this explanation. But I believe it's absolutely crucial to understanding exactly what it is that we are dealing with when all of these attacks on sexuality. Now, the first point to make, guys, is that I'm suggesting that what we're seeing with all of this so-called special sort of sex education for the minors, young people in school, where, and I'm not even exaggerating now or being dramatic, guys. There are things that are being taught to 12-year-olds in our schools at the moment that I didn't even know about. And I'm supposed to be a man of the world. Okay. Now, the only point I'm making here, just using this diagram here, is there possibly a link or a connection? I'm suggesting there is. As a matter of fact, it goes a bit further and say I know that there is, but again, knowing and proving can sometimes not be the same thing. But let's look here now. Here's this picture in the middle, this diagram. It's just suggestive of something intrinsic to our physical selves and our emotional selves and our spiritual selves, all interconnected. So I have this theory called the what do you call it? The original symbol. You see there, top right. I've just let it pop up there. That's the original principle. Okay, which is the concept of masculine and femininity merging into each other there, not in a transgender-like way, but in the sense that every man has feminine aspects to their personality and every woman has masculine aspects, and they have to be there. It's part of the balance of life. But also that we're embedded in the notion of the divine, or at least that's how it's supposed to be. So that's what that symbol is there. I'll just pop that out again. Let's see if I can... let's see if it, no, sorry guys, it's doing something I don't want it to do here. I was trying to make that go away. I'll put the Integrity Ireland logo back up there for the moment. Okay, so this was just to show that the diagram in the top right is the chakra system. This original principle idea talks about the spirit, the mind, and the body. And this rough diagram below comes from a book that I wrote about 25 years ago called The Color of Truth. And there you see how I show how the idea of a spirit in white, a mind, which is in the place where the throat or the communications chakra is, and then the body, which is in the sexual arena, the spirit, mind, body, concept, plan, action, deity, feminine, masculine, in that order. All right. Now, I'm just trying to show that these are themes that are universal. They cross over most religions and mythologies even. They all incorporate these ideas. They just haven't been stitched together coherently yet, sufficient for it to be common knowledge, but they are there. So what is it that we are worried about here with the, right? What we need to do is briefly just reflect on the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, all right? And as I've said before, guys, doing these slides, I can't see what's coming up next, even though I prepared them. So bear with me if I jump around a little bit here and there. Now, the first thing to notice is that before sin came into the world, right, and we're not going to talk about that today, I mean, for the moment, but there were only two genders, all right? So the story of the Garden of Eden, the concept is that it was perfect, and whoever Adam and Eve were, you know, symbolically or otherwise, they walked and talked with God naked and unashamed. So there was no shame, there was no problems, everything was fine. And at that time when everything was fine, there were only two genders, male and female. He made them, you know, in his image and likeness and all that sort of stuff, or in their image and likeness. All right. So the Garden of Eden represents the kingdom of heaven on earth. And of course, my stuff here is spilled over. I'll just have to bring it up a little bit bigger to make it clearer. Okay. So it's humanity's destiny is to return there. Where? To the Garden of Eden, or the kingdom of heaven on earth. Now, that's what all religions should be moving towards, okay? All religions should be aspiring to bring human society back to the proverbial Garden of Eden. And I don't mean go backwards in time to be in Neanderthals living in caves and all that sort of stuff. No, I mean going back to a model of perfection. Now, this is hugely important, guys, because the part of the problem we have with all of this woke ideology and gender fluidity and all of this other stuff, the PC concepts and the New World Order and all of these, there are a lot of people who sincerely think they're doing the right thing, when in fact they're operating directly against the original principle that existed in the Garden of Eden. And if they were only to understand that, I think would be a great breakthrough, and we'd get a lot more unity of thought on what we should be doing and what the problems really are. So anyway, here we have Adam and Eve in the garden, and we're told, the story tells us that it was They were told not to eat of a particular fruit, but they did. All right. Now, in Genesis 3:7, you can get the story. Now, I'm just going to say this here today, guys. I've done other presentations on this, but it wasn't a physical, literal fruit that they ate. Okay, it wasn't an apple. All right. There's a joke about it. You know, I'll keep this dignified though. But there's a funny joke about what the fruit really was. But all we need to know for the moment is that there was a sexual element to the fall. All right, we've got to get through a lot of stuff today, so I won't say too much about this. I hope I'm not stirring up too much controversy, but this can be explained in great detail and with great clarity just by reading scripture, just by looking at mythology and then looking at the facts. Okay, so what I'm saying is that Adam and Eve, where everything was fine, they were naked and unashamed, wandering around, chatting away happily with God, no problem. And then they did something wrong. Okay. Now down here in Genesis 3:7, it says, as a result, they both understood what they had done, and they became aware that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. Now, this understanding, this theory that the original sin was something to do with sex, inappropriate sex, I might add, okay? Not sex in itself is a gift from God. It's a wonderful thing, the right time, place, and all that. But in the wrong place, the wrong time, it's incredibly destructive, which is part of this presentation today, to get people to understand this. So naturally, just if you eat an apple and you're told not to eat the apple and you eat it and you go, ooh, wouldn't you? You'd cover your mouth and you'd say, oh my God, I've been caught. Ooh, but they don't. They cover their nakedness. All right. So I just want to establish that, guys. Again, I hope it doesn't put any people off, especially people who know their scriptures and they have a different understanding. Just think about it logically. All right. There's a dozen different proofs that this fruit that they're instructed not to partake of is actually the fruit of Eve, just like the fruit of the Virgin Mary and the Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, guys, and it's important that we understand this. So the point, if I'm making one solid point so far, it's that there's something intrinsic to the human condition where our spirituality and our sexuality are intimately intertwined. And messing with your sexuality is going to have a detrimental effect on your spirituality or your soul, all right, collectively and individually, all right, of course, all right. That's the main point I'm trying to make, because we'll come back to this a little bit later, okay. Next slide. So this is from a presentation, I think this was slide number 8 out of the middle of a presentation that I've done. If you need to, go and look it up online, the gender question in universal law, put my name in, hopefully it'll pop up either on YouTube or Rumble or somewhere like that. It's only about a dozen slides, but I tackle this specific, you know, the LGBTQ plus IA argument, and about how many genders really are there, and so on and so forth. It's super important that people understand this with clarity. And I'll bring it up here now, guys. The main thing to notice here, right? I'll read from the bottom. If the LGBTQIA plus lobby succeeds in forcing society at large, under pain of criminal punishment, to adopt a perverse model of overall human sexuality. Don't get annoyed, guys. If you're in this grouping, don't get annoyed, because none of us are perfect, okay? All right, none of us. And I mean this, sexually perfect, none of us either, you know? But if the lobby succeeds in forcing us to adopt a perverse model of overall human sexuality that in effect prevails over natural law and universal law, which is this original idea of the two genders in the Garden of Eden, okay, then this will effectively trap humanity, possibly permanently, in a collective state of existence whereby the concepts of pure masculinity and pure femininity will be considered an aberration, making it nigh on impossible for individuals to realign with the divine. Again, it's a complicated the greater story is pretty complicated, guys, but please bear with me here. In other words, what I'm saying is that if the wokeists, you know, around today succeed in ramming this ideology down our throats and into the minds and hearts of our children and our youth to such an extent that it becomes collectively accepted, that this is, quote, the norm, or this is okay, then what we do is we lose the ambition to aspire to the original model of the Garden of Eden, which was pure femininity and pure masculinity in the forms of, symbolizing the forms of Adam and Eve. Also, as you can see at the top there, believe it or not, in the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which represented Adam and Eve respectively. There's a lot more to this, guys. I'm sort of a bit of a specialist in symbolism, on top of the other work I've been doing in the law and everything, and it all makes absolute 100% sense to me. Now, if you also notice here these percentages, you'll notice the bottom on the right and the left there, I've got 66.6%. Why? Because if the spirit, which we lost at the fall, the connection with the divine, if that's a third of the human condition, okay, spirit, mind, and body, if you lose the spirit, you're left with just a mind and a body, which is 66.6%. All right. Now, again, for those people who think the symbolism is all nonsense, if you don't know the book of Revelation, read it. The mark of the beast is 666. This is one explanation for why that is so. It's because the spirit is missing. And just like an animal in the field or in the jungle, it's got a mind and it's got a body, but it has no soul, like no divine connection to connect to the soul. Again, not an argument that we can have at length here today. I'm just making the point. If the soul is missing and we're only a body and a mind, they're just a functioning organism, biological organism, where invariably the demands of the flesh predominate. So the mind is then subjugated into the lowest position. The masculine entity crushes the feminine, if you like, and the spirit of the divine is completely missing. This, as a consequence, I have to, and again, I'm sorry to make these direct comparisons, but the truth is the truth, guys, and I sincerely understand and believe these things to be self-evident. We have to be brave and speak out. So what I'm saying is that we should not be aspiring to some perverse model of humanity when we know from the Bible stories and other scriptures that there is a perfect model of masculinity and femininity, which, as I said a few minutes ago, none of us actually reflect properly. None of us do. All right. So that's the caveat. That's the get out. That's why I'm not being judgmental here. I'm not saying I'm better than somebody who's LBGQT plus A, trans, whatever. No, that's not the point. The point is saying that however I perceive myself to be spiritually, mentally, and physically, spirit, mind, body, as a man, could I improve on any aspects of my spirituality, my emotional, psychological, or my physical fitness and presence, and in order to better mirror the original? That's what we should be looking at, not at perverse prefabrications of what it really means to be male or female. That's what I'm saying, okay? Let's crack on to the next slide. Oh, yeah. So here we go, guys. For this, so this is speaking about the gender dysphoria. I'm trying to see if I can get rid of that logo. Okay, I'll leave that fell up there instead, just for the time being. Okay, now, again, it's just to hit the subject, guys, and ask ourselves, what is this doing to our children, all right? Now, as you can see there, the article, I pulled this article, that attractive young lady in the picture with the white top, she is, all right, at the age of 13, she decided she wanted to be a boy, and she transitioned. And then at the age of 16, she changed her mind and transitioned back again. I presume this is her at 16, I'm guessing. All of these things in the right, and I'm sorry, again, the slides, the text in this runs off the slides sometimes when I don't want it to. I'm sorry about that. But these are very conservative numbers on the left. 5,700 American children had trans surgery. Yeah. And they say they were treated like guinea pigs. Now, this young lady now is spearheading up investigations into the fact that the hospitals, of course, are making a small fortune, and the insurance companies and so on, out of this push to convince children that they are. Now, there's hundreds of thousands of children have been affected by this in America alone. The authors of the article make it clear that the numbers are very, very much on the conservative side. But guess what I found? Now, this is going to, I hope it astonishes you as much as it did me. Now, I've seen some various ridiculous claims from people saying, oh, there's not just two genders. And in some cases you hear of people claiming there to be scores, dozens, or even hundreds of genders. Well, look, I'm just going to show, we're going to pull up this slide here, guys, right? This particular website, it's a sort of pseudo-scientific or psychological website. On it, they have 170 listed genders. Okay, and this is only the A section. As you can see, it's only the beginning of the A section. And if we can read a few of these, and just see if I can enlarge it a bit more. I don't know that I can, but let's see if we can. If I can read a couple of these. And being a gender associated with being profound, deep, and infinite, may be used alone or in combination with other genders. That's just one of them. I'll pick out another one here. Affectu gender. This is based on the person's mood swings or fluctuations. And then let's say one at the bottom here. I'm sorry, I literally can't read it, guys. It's so small on my screen here. But having a gender identity that changes depending on the person one is emotionally attached to. Look, I think that's enough to make the point I'm making here. All they're doing here are listing they're giving scientific terminology to states of mind of any given person at any moment in their life, depending on their feelings. It's totally ridiculous. And they're trying to assign this to gender. Look, I can change my mind in a 10-minute period. I can be listening to a funny joke and be laughing my head off, and a few minutes later I hear some sad news and I can be in tears. According to these people, that equates to, that's shifting emotions or feelings. If I then assign something sexual to it, which of course I'm an intrinsically sexual being, so because I'm feeling a bit emotional, I could say, oh, I feel like a woman now. Does that make me a woman? Of course not. It's pure insanity. And it's the profession's gone mad. Okay? Now, we already know after what do we call it? The phenomenon, yes, the C phenomenon that we've just all lived through the last few years. If anybody was in any doubt that the professions have sold their souls and have been captured and hijacked by the people I'm calling the diabolicals, the globalists, if you're in any doubt about that, please do some reading, do some research, not from the mainstream media either, okay? So there were a rare few exceptions amongst the professions where people stood up for what they truly believed to be right and true, whilst everybody else just, yes sir, no sir, I need my wages at the end of the week, I'll do what the government tells me to, or what the association tells me I have to do for fear I might lose my license or my income. And what you've done, my friends, I'm sorry to tell you, is you've sold your souls to the devil. It's really that simple. You have, especially the professions, more than anybody else, the so-called professions. This is the lawyers, the doctors, the teachers, okay, the judges, and so on. All of you people take some form of ethical oath that aligns you with truth and justice and righteousness and everything, and you just gave it away. Just gave it away. Anyway, we'll keep going here, guys, and make the point as we go along. So you remember this, guys, the Eurovision Song Contest, all right? There's our wonderful Bambi Thug on the left there. I did a full video about her demonic representation coming from the land of saints and scholars. Frankly, I'm thoroughly ashamed. And to see the pundits on TV, applauding and, oh, she's fantastic and wonderful, what's wrong with you people? Have you gone mad? Have you gone mental? Up there, actually, it says the Eurovision butt contest. You don't see it all because of I'll just pull it up a little bit there and make it a little bit bigger for you guys. The Eurovision butt contest, that's set up there. But these were some of the performers. And of course, the lad that won it down there, the lad, I say lad, I think he's a lad, wasn't he? Wasn't he? I think he was a man. Again, I'm not trying to be coy or, provocative here, but what is going on? Why this sudden push towards to broadcasting and putting a spotlight on all things that are arguably perverse from the viewpoint of the original principle? The original principle, which I'll stick back up there in the corner again so you can see it. Okay, this notion of masculine and feminine embedded in the divine. Okay, why? Why is there such a push for all of this? Okay, so Then we come, now I know there's been a lot of commentary on this, so I'll just skip through this relatively quickly. But in case you were hibernating in a cave a month or so ago, the Paris Olympics did a mockery of Da Vinci's Last Supper, and did a thoroughly debaucherous mockery of it, including literally, there's a child at the front left, somebody about the age of, I don't know, 10 or so, I'm guessing. In one of these pictures, one of these so-called gentlemen, but of course they probably object to that, they probably identify as something else. But one of these gentlemen actually had his bits out, okay? And I'm using the term bits just to be polite, and I've got a little giggle from Danny over my shoulder there for that, okay? So, yeah, literally, they're exposing themselves and doing it on the world stage. And you have to say, well, as I said, is this sexuality or is this Satanism? Well, I'm going to start to suggest that it is, in fact, Satanism. Now, you see, I've just ringed the 18 performers there. 18 is a multiple of 6, of course. 3 6s are 18. That could just be an incidental coincidence, of course, just an incidental coincidence. It just so happens if I notice them, I spot them. Sometimes they add up. You get such a sequence of satanic symbolism all combined together that you just can't ignore it. For example, Justin Trudeau, I won't bring up that slide here, guys, but watch that man. Because if ever there was somebody who symbolically is perfectly aligned to be the Antichrist or the beast or something of that nature, it's him. You know, he was born in 1971. That adds up to 1971. At 9:27 p.m., add the 9.27. Check it out, guys. Just look online and check out these facts. 9:27 adds to 18 again. When? On Christmas Day. Christmas Day. If you're going to be an Antichrist, you might as well be born on Christmas, wouldn't you? You know what I mean? And so on. So there's all this symbolic. On top of that, the flag of Ottawa, which was changed, is where he was born. The flag of Ottawa is now 3 6s, similar to some of these other symbols like Google Chrome and stuff like that. These 3 6s linked together, you know? There's a whole lot. And the fact also that, I'm saying it again, I know it's argued on the internet by so-called fact checkers. Look, he is the son of Fidel Castro. Now, I wasn't there. I can't prove it. But if somebody were to put a gun to my head and say, make a decision, and I'd say, yeah, I'd have to say, I'm 98% sure, 99%. Look, there's too much evidence. His parents were in an unknown tropical island in the Cuba area when he was conceived. The agencies have tried to wipe the information. And so there's just an awful lot. And then if you take his name, Justin Pierre Trudeau, change the Trudeau and put in Castro, add it up, numerology, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and you come to, I think it's 240. Divided by 6, which is the number of imperfection, comes to 40, divided again by 6, and it comes to 6.666 recurring. Guys, check it out. I should have put the slide up. I've got it in another presentation. But symbolism is hugely important. Here they've got Dionysus, the bacchanalian god, you know, of license and debauchery. On top of that, during the Olympics themselves, you have all of these heavy metal screaming bands with fire belching out of the castle and blood being spattered all over it, you know. And then you've got a headless Marie Antoinette. I mean, a lot of this stuff would have been considered pornographic about 10 or 15 years ago. It wouldn't even been allowed on public viewing. Here we go. Dionysus invites us to unleash our inhibitions, dance to the rhythm of life, and find liberation in the embrace of our true selves. It's license. It's not, look, we all enjoy a good time, but there's having a good time and then there's debauchery, you know. Which is it, you know? Which one are we, you know, which one is appropriate? Which one is, you know, proper, responsible behavior, especially when children are watching, you know? Then there was this curious pale horse. Now, if anybody knows your Revelation, the Bible, you know, this was the galloping horse in the Olympic opening ceremony, okay? The galloping horse with the Olympic flag on its back. Now, I want you to just think for a moment, the flag of many colors and all that sort of stuff, okay? The rainbow flag that's been hijacked by the LGBTQ community and all the rest of it. But as we look at the next one, so it was a great bit of mechanical engineering, very fascinating. But what's it doing in an Olympic opening ceremony? You've got bacchanalian feasts and orgies. You've got headless women. You've got blood splattering the walls. You know, you've got a mockery of the Last Supper. And then they lied about it. Of course, the lie is always the giveaway. All of these things are based on a great lie. Who sanctioned, who approved all of this stuff and said, oh, it's fine. Yeah, there'll be no problem whatsoever. These are all images out of the book of Revelation, guys, in the last days and the coming of the Antichrist, the faceless horseman on the left there, you know. And we need to be aware of what they might possibly be. Now, this is just one internet commentator made the astute observation that in the book of Revelation, I haven't brought up the Bible quotes here, guys, but in the book of Revelation, it does talk about the horseman of death on the pale horse coming, and he'll have a bow in his hand. And he's argued that possibly the bow they're talking about is the rainbow of the colors on the Olympic flag, which matches with the LGBTQT push, you know, that we're all supposed to accept without complaint. Okay, very interesting. It could be the rainbow, right? The rainbow on the flags. Meanwhile, here's this gentleman, the Brazilian surfer, right? What happened to him? Well, as you can see, all of his surfboards, and he's an Olympic surfer, okay? The Olympic organizing committee told him they're not going to allow him to perform unless he got those Jesus images off his surfboards. Why would those Jesus images be offensive to people who have got men with their bits hanging out and beards and bras and all sorts of stuff, but you can't have Jesus on a surfboard? Bear in mind that this is the image of Rio de Janeiro, as you all know, the great big Christ statue that overlooks Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, where he's from, you know. It could quite easily have been interpreted, could it not, as an innocent national gesture. But no, oh no, we're not having Jesus and no surfboards here, but we'll have, you know, weird sort of, don't know quite what they are, androgynous things with their bits hanging out in front of kids, and you know, and it's advertising, you know, basically drunken orgies and all the rest of it. But no Jesus, no, we can't have that. And you're saying to me that there's no element of Satanism here, guys? I think we need to understand what it is that's going on. Then there's this article here. Well, basically it's a Google search. You do a Google search about LGBTQ athletes. There you go on the left. Look at them all. You know, all of these athletes are going to be performing. Now, again, I've just stuck in 3 pictures. I can't even name these people, but they all claim to be women. Okay, the one at the top is a weightlifter. The one on the right is a cyclist, and the one at the bottom, I'm not quite sure what he, she, it, they, or them does. But just look at the jawline on this person. You know, I mean, if that person is claiming to be a woman, well, I feel a bit sorry for him, for her, because certainly as a man, I wouldn't be overly attracted, you know. And there's something not right here, guys. And again, I'm not trying to be personally offensive or insulting at all, but we have to call a spade a spade. And the fact of the matter, the scientific fact of the matter is that any person that's gone through male puberty has got more muscle mass. They've got higher levels of testosterone. It doesn't matter how much you medicate and all the rest of it. You've got, and the science has proven it, that you've got at least a 10% advantage over any female competitor. There was one of the examples I read where I think it was, I don't know if it was biathlons or triathlons or something, but they showed that the top 2,500 men in the world in this particular competition would all beat the very best woman in the same competition. 2,500 of them, right? Because they've got better muscle mass and higher levels of testosterone, and so on and so forth. Which means that on a level playing field, if we say, well, we'll just open all competitions to male and female and let the best person win. not the best man or the best woman, the best person, then in some sports, women wouldn't even be able to compete. They just wouldn't get in the rankings at all. You know, they'd be like a subspecies, physically speaking, I'm talking, of course, right? Which it's fair to recognize the physical differences between the two genders. It's not fair for a man to suddenly declare himself a woman, and I don't care about the medical side of it and the scientific side of it. It's just not fair. As we saw, I think, in a couple of the upcoming slides, in the boxing matches and so on. And here's another bit of a little bit of, what I call it, sexual depravity. Look, there were, I think there was 10,000 or 10,500 athletes or thereabouts in total in the Olympic Village. So even if, all right, even if they were all being responsible, and when I say responsible, in their debauchery, if they're going to be responsibly debaucherous and use a condom every time, this is enough for all of them to have had sex 30 times, with or without different partners, who knows, 30 times each, whilst they were there at the Olympic Village. I mean, what is it? What are they trying to normalize here? It's, again, right, what people need to realize, guys, and I know, again, I do realize that a lot of the audience may not necessarily have a background in theology or Bible studies, and they may not even think it's important. I assure you, if you don't understand the difference between good and evil in these days, then you're on the wrong side. You're absolutely, and you're going to be swept up and vacuumed up and preyed upon. You'll be one of the first to go, guys. You have to have a clear understanding of what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's evil. And if you were to imagine some persona, some person, now normally we talk about the notion of Satan or something, which is, whether or not it's people that, whether they are consciously aware of it or not, if they were serving in the service of an entity that was absolutely diametrically opposed to the God of Scriptures, this loving source, if you like, of all decency and goodness and truth and all that's right with the word. If you were diametrically opposed to that, one of the things you'd want to be doing would be robbing humans, especially when they're young, of their ability to connect with the divine. When did we hear about that happening before? Oh, yes, way back in the Garden of Eden. Sexual fall, all right? Something happened that separated Adam and Eve from the divine, and there was a sexual aspect to it. Could it be possible that this is the move that we're seeing in front of us right now? Is that to, quote, normalize misuses and aberrations of sexuality in as much as it's intrinsically connected with spirituality? I hope I'm not going too far on this, guys. Now, I hope people are staying with me. Anyway, this was the aforementioned, this boxer, Emin Khalif, such a terror apparently in the ring, Now, I wouldn't mind, but at some point, these people were banned from participating in female sports because they had too much testosterone and everything. But if they were born a man, they're still men, right? And here, let's name these characters. This Mark Adams, Olympic Council chairperson, spokesperson, trying to defend this. Oh, well, if the authorities tell us that they're women, then they're women. No, they're not. No, they're not. This poor woman had to give up after 30 seconds. Wasn't it 46 seconds? She got beaten so badly, she just had to stop, And your woman goes on to earn a gold medal. Right, so here now, guys, I want you to have a close look at this, okay? This is another slide, and I see we're about 2/3 the way through here now, guys. So this is another slide which is part of the presentation. Please go and look at the full presentation. It's only about, I think, about a dozen slides, but I break this all down and explain it in some considerable detail. But what I want you to look at here, guys, is again at the top there. You see the tree of life on the left and the tree of knowledge on the right, and the spirit. All of that's been cancelled out with the fall. Okay, in its place is the dark satanic world, which focuses largely on money. Okay, there's the money symbol. Okay, the ideal of the true feminine and the ideal of the true masculine is being corrupted. And we're trying to be forced to accept this sort of confused, androgynous, convoluted mishmash of anything goes. Because I'm telling you, if we cannot be united as an individual, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, so that's body, mind, and spirit in that order, if you cannot be, then we will never regain access to the divine as individuals or as a collective. It's sort of that simple, guys. So if you were a satanic figure and you were trying to block humanity from ever reconnecting with the divine and trying to force them to live, as I say, try to force humanity to live in a world devoid of spirit, devoid of soul, devoid of the presence of God, and replace it with something else, what? The ultimate false god, the diabolicals, as I call them, where they're all rooted in money and power and greed, the worst aspects of the masculine, okay? Then this is how you'd go about it. You destroy their own personal identity first by challenging their sexuality. Then you try and destroy their local, their families by attacking the family, which has been happening, has it not? Then you go after the communities and the cultures, and eventually everybody's in this soup of nonsense and insanity. Nobody can find God anymore. And then they walk in and say, welcome to the new beast kingdom. You're all little beasts now. None of you got souls anymore. And I, whoever it be at the time, will appoint myself as your leader. I keep telling people, you are your own leader. We shouldn't be looking to these so-called authorities who have repeatedly proven themselves to be unworthy of trust or respect. By sowing seeds of sexual confusion, androgyny, and promoting a general free-for-all, amoral, and non-spiritual mindset regarding sexual license, incorporating the perversion of the innocent minds of prepubescent children, the very same dynamics that occurred at the fall are now being formally legislated and enforced within a truly diabolical hierarchy of kingdoms and principalities, in other words, corporations, institutions, and governments, which have each long since sold out to the god of Mammon. The result is a humanity devoid of the divine. Don't underestimate sexuality, in other words. Now I'm asking the question here, guys. Here we have our friends in the Paralympics. Okay, so we notice that it would be unfair to have people in wheelchairs trying to compete with sprinters, obviously. We also notice with the Special Olympics, which is created specially for, people with special needs, as you know, my own son, Danny. Yeah. If we can create Special Olympics for these people, would it not be, if we're going to, and I'm not talking about being unkind now to transgender people and the like and whatever, but my first instinct to say, well, look, if we're going to be forced to accept them as a clique, if you like, in society that is entitled to compete, for example, if let's just say a lesbian or a gay person, right, just to keep it simple, decide that they really want to compete, but there's no space for them in, it's not fair, for example, to have men who just declare they're women walk in and beat up female boxers. Why not give them their own Olympic Games, transgender Olympic Games, and have a clique of, how do I say a clique, have a grouping that is people who have transitioned one way or the other, and let them fight it out. I mean, I feel like being a bit flippant here and saying a few trite things like handbag throwing contests or, vaulting into the champagne-filled, nightclub pool or something. I don't know, look. But, that's a little bit derogatory, and maybe I should apologize for that. But the point I'm trying to make is that we should be aiming, the reason we have Olympics in the first place is to try and produce the best examples of physical masculinity and physical femininity in the sporting arena. Isn't that right? Isn't that what it's about? Yeah. But we've got to be sensible about it and not employ too much of this insanity. Meanwhile, we've now got in the schools, and there's a thing on the left there. There's your original principle. Most middle grade novels deal with big themes around friendship, school, and family rather than romantic themes. And these LGBTQ middle grade texts reflect that. I think that may be why most LGBT chapter books tend to feature gay or lesbian secondary characters, such as parents, rather than a gay protagonist, and so on and so forth. I'm just showing you the sort of books that are in our schools, guys, all right? It's not healthy, and it's force-feeding ideas and notions into innocent children's minds that would not be there if it wasn't being sponsored by our governments and by these perverted globalists. It just wouldn't be there. All right, we've got to recognize, and most of them are sociopaths and psychopaths, guys. I deal with this in almost every presentation I do. If you don't understand, again, look up under my name. I've got quite a few presentations now on the difference between a sociopath and a psychopath and empaths. Hopefully, I'm talking mostly to empaths here, but you need to recognize them because the roots of good and evil drift in those two directions, guys. Okay, so next one, what have we got here? Yes. This slide also, as we're moving towards the end, guys, I want you to have a look at this one. Very simply, 3 necessities for evil. You have to have an urge to dominate, you have to have the means to dominate, and there have to be material rewards for that domination, right? This is the fallen world we're talking about, okay? And it's so, the urge to dominate is sociopathic behavior. I just mentioned it. Sociopathic or psychopathic behavior. You don't care about people. You see people as instruments, as tools, as prey to be preyed upon. The means to dominate is usually through systems and structures. Yeah, I can only just read it, guys, because it's a bit small on my screen. So systems and structures, organizations. The larger the organization, the more likely it is that it's an autocratic type institution. Autocratic is the opposite of sovereign, guys. All right, sovereign. I don't mean sovereign in terms of royalty. Sovereign meaning personal, individual empowerment. Okay, institutions do not have consciences. People do. On the right here, 3 necessities for good: the urge to nurture, which is empathetic behavior, an individual desire to nurture, and the nurturing act is its own reward. In other words, people usually help other people not because they've been rewarded for it, not because they're going to get money for it, but because there's a sense of satisfaction in doing the right thing, in being good to other people. It's just, if you haven't experienced, guys, maybe you're on the wrong end of the scale, okay? So these, again, are some of the slides I'm putting together for people. Inhumane values versus humane values. What is value, after all? Unfortunately, these days, we tend to evaluate everything in financial terms, don't we? Monetary terms. My time, how much it costs, who's going to pay for this, where are my wages? What happened to humane values that you can't put a price on? Compassion, love, decency, honor, nobility, truth, justice, kindness. You can't put a price on these things, guys. But without them, we're not getting near any kingdom of heaven on earth, I can tell you that. Now, here we go, Irish local news for those of you that may be watching from abroad. This lady has just been appointed as all right, I'll pull myself out of here 1 second, as the chair of evolution. Well, no, sorry, she's been appointed by the government to advise the cabinet on matters, to do with gender equality and everything. This woman, this Professor Aoife McLysaght, actually believes that biological males are, how does it say? Oh, my logo's out the way again, sorry. Are women if they identify as women. In other words, all they've got to do is say, I'm a woman. That's it. I mean, this is insanity. Look at her. Seems like a nice looking lady. She's obviously got some intelligence because she's got a professorship. The trouble is, it's not common sense intelligence. She's been schooled and indoctrinated into this, and now she's trying to teach it further on. And now the government can say, oh, well, she's the expert, and we're following expert advice. Yeah, sure. You know, government-appointed experts that say what the government want them to say because the government are the puppets of the globalists. You know, it's madness, guys. Now, this here as well, this is a... I want you, after I finish here in a few minutes, guys, please go over to the Natural Women's Council and you'll find this video below. Please watch the video. It's an interview with a whistleblower. She was a teacher, a coordinator of the sex education program in the schools, and she was so horrified at what the government is basically telling them to teach children and how to teach it. She was so horrified that she resigned. A brave woman, well done. I applaud you for your courage. And so that's only up there to tell you to get over there and look at it. And I'm going to show you a couple of stills, guys, just to make a point. All right, I'm going to pull this up. Now, first of all, before you get distracted, I'm not going to... This was some of the material that was being taught to something like 40 teachers on this course. If you see over on the right-hand side, you see the white square, guys. There's a pencil drawing of a naked woman. You can see that. I've only taken a still of this because in the video, you'll see the next thing that happens. And again, I don't want to be too graphic because it might get the video pulled. But the next thing that happens is that her legs part and you get a full frontal view of the lady organs, if you like. And she begins... How do you say it? Can I say it on, I think, masturbating? I think I can say it. And it's a demonstration of how a female... Now, don't forget, they're showing this to 12-year-olds, guys. All right? 12-year-olds. This is another scene, as you can see there. And this is only a few of them. You can see the stuff that's going on there. You know, homosexual couples engaging in anal, vaginal sex, etc., and more. And there's, like I said, there's stuff being taught to 12-year-olds, asking them what their opinions are on it, what do they feel about this, that, and the other. Themes and practices that I, honest to God, guys, didn't even... I had to ask someone, what's that? And what's this? You know, I literally didn't know. And a couple of things that I was told about, I was horrified. I said, what, people do that? People actually do X, Y, and Z, and that's supposed to be pleasurable? I mean, I've always been a bit bewildered. And even at the notion of sadomasochism, you know, the idea of people... I mean, I got the cane a few times when I was young. I'm not going to volunteer to have somebody, you know, whipping or beating me. Or, I mean, pain is pain, you know. That's always bewildered me. But there is a theme here, guys. You know, the rich, privileged people amongst us, they soon stop being titillated, if you like, by the normal, you know, sexual impulse and, you know, the romance of meeting somebody new and however that may, you know, advance itself, and the thrill of being intimate with somebody that you love, you know, because they've got so much money and power, and because there are so many confused and spiritually abandoned people out there, you know. So the next step after that then is affairs, of course, risking breaking up marriages and all the rest. We'll come to that in a second. After that, of course, prostitution. After that, then you start getting into the various deviant forms of adult sexuality. When that becomes boring, well, you know where we're going with this. That's what this is all about. This is grooming our children into having highly sexualized and highly detailed sexualized thoughts about themes and constructs that me in my 60s didn't even know about, guys. You know, and I'm no worldly innocent either. You know, I didn't get married till I was 39, so you know, I lived a free bachelor life. So you know, anyway, there's enough about that. We're getting close to the end here, guys. So we've got to ask ourselves, what on earth are and here's the government. Here's this Norma Foley on the left-hand side, Minister for so-called Education, claiming on Gript Media. Please look at Gript Media, guys, G-R-I-P-T. They're one of the few people that still can get a microphone in these people's faces and seem to be getting away with it. I don't, you know, trustworthy, honest, brave reporting. And Roderick O'Gorman on the right, Minister for Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth. I'd put a question mark there because they should be locked away in, and I don't mean in nasty, punitive way, but they should be put somewhere where they're not a danger to society anymore. Because these are the people who are corrupting the minds and spirits and bodies of our children, and doing it on the lie that they've got the full approval of the public, because they set up some NGOs, some consultancy groups handpicked by the government to say what the government wants them to say. And then they say, oh, we got full public approval. They even claim to have the approval of the bishops. That's being challenged now. That's Norma Foley. Why? Because they lie. Why? Because they're sociopaths and psychopaths, because they don't care about people. The system is set up to encourage them. So, and then finally, last couple of little comments for the last couple of minutes before we go. This is me just offering my tuppence worth, so to speak, guys, all right? A team to take on the diabolicals. Look, I understand. I'm not an advocate of the system. Let me say this right. Okay. The system as it stands at the moment, the global system, the pyramid system, where with money and power and all that at the top, is a diabolical construct. All right. But it's unrealistic to think that, let's say I volunteered again to go run for the election and I got put into cabinet. Like I said, what's the first thing I'd do if I was made the King of Ireland or the Prime Minister or the President? I'd say, well, I'd sack the whole government and then I'd sack myself, you know, joking, of course, tongue in cheek. But of course, that would lead to chaos. But in the meantime, I'm saying, and I'm making a political statement here, that the current administration with the Democrats in America, they're not the Democratic Party anymore, guys. They are the party of the cabal, of the establishment, of the military-industrial complex. They're there to feather their own nests, look after their buddies, the rich and powerful, high-tech and all that, pharmaceutical giants. That's what they're there for, all right? I believe in this upcoming election in America, which is hugely important to all of us, that this is probably the best team with the most likely chance to start dismantling the cabal. So that's for my tuppence worth. If anybody in America is looking in, please, I'm asking you, please vote. You know, I've got members of my own family that have American birthright. I do hope they'll be voting for the Trump administration to come in, because I think that's what they're scared of. They're scared of him because he's not scared of them, right? Just a quick, and of course, because they're making headway, you're going to get the mainstream media now, I've got to be quick, are going to try and dirty and sully the good names. So this pretty girl here claimed to be having a relationship. It turned out to be nothing more than her obsessing over a man that she had only met once, but they broadcast it all over the media to try and blacken his name. Have a read of that, guys, if you want to. I've got to close now in less than a minute, so it had nothing to do with him. It was her obsessing pornographically about a man she had only met. He'd held her hand apparently on a hike for a fraction of a second or whatever, and they tried to turn it into him. Who does she work for? The New York Magazine, which is what? A left-biased media organization. In other words, they're in the pockets of the Democrats. Okay, guys? So this is where you can find information about us, guys. Freeze it if you wish, and we'll add to this as we go along. If you want to support us, please do. The best way is to buy the books, because that's sharing the knowledge. Please share these videos if you find them useful. And finally, there we are. Truth Matters, Integrity Ireland. Let's put our little logo back up here on the top right. The universal principle, the original principle. And with that, guys, I will say good night and God bless. Thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. End